Welcome to Voices of Hope. I'm your host, Omar Kenyatta Clark, and this is a brave space, a space where vulnerability meets courage, and where real stories of resilience come to life. Each episode will bring you powerful conversations with people who face some of life's hardest challenges and turn them into sources of strength. We believe each story has power to heal, to inspire, and to remind us that we're never alone in this journey. Whether you're seeking hope, looking for inspiration, or simply need to know someone else has walked through fire and made it out, this is your space. So we have Michael Baglino. Welcome to Voices of Hope.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you here. I'm happy you're able to join our show today.
Thank you for the invitation, Omar. I'm looking forward to this talk.
Yeah, great. I'm looking forward to it too. So I see here in your intro, um, you had a few careers that you've been through. You said you were an singer, actor, um, a doctor, social sciences, correct? Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
few
but
others,
then, yeah, what's that?
a few others.
Few others, right, right. So I just want to ask you about this spiritual lightning that you described. You said that you were hit with spiritual lightning. Can you tell us more about um that spiritual lightning? How did it change your life and lead you into what you do now, the public speaking?
Well, you brought up this thing about other careers. You know, I when spiritual lightning hit, I'll explain a little bit what I think of what spiritual lightning is. I started to realize that God had a hand in all of these careers of mine,
Okay.
but I never recognized it that much before. Spiritual lightning lets you become aware of a lot of things.
Okay, so previously you weren't as spiritual or you just didn't notice as much?
Both. I
Okay.
wasn't as spiritual, and right, and I just wasn't aware as much. I was just striving, I was just achieving, I was just, guys want to experience things. I wanted to experience, and I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do that, and I said, oh, I can do this, and accomplish this. But so what? It's really nothing unless you have consecrated yourself to God, to Jesus, and know that everything you do is for Him, and then you feel full, and then you feel comfortable about it all. Before, I was just struggling in
Yeah.
the process, doing many things, but just struggling and probably a little neurotic here and there. I was,
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Like, um, it seems like you were achieving a lot of different things, but correct me if I'm wrong, but you still felt like there was some type of void, like something was missing. Is
exactly.
that? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I wasn't sure about it. I was what you call a nominal Catholic. Well, I was brought up Catholic. I was Catholic. So if someone said, "What religion are you?" I say, "I'm Catholic."
Okay.
Okay. But it didn't mean anything really because I didn't go to church, and when I was in college, I was younger. I mean, I went through the format of, had communion and confession. I went to church a few times, but we didn't go to church that much. But we were, as far as we were concerned, we were Catholic. When
Yeah.
I went to college, I lived across the street from the cathedral in my college town. Not once did I step foot in that cathedral.
So you
I
were
mean,
Catholic by name
I was Catholic by
primarily.
name, a nominal Catholic.
Yeah.
And, now when I visit my college town, I make sure I go into that cathedral. Every time I'm there, I have to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, that's what I was, just in name only. And then, when things started to happen, I started to get into my careers. Um, I said, well, I started going back to the church. I mean, I was reading the Bible and I was listening to Christian radio on some of the popular preachers of the day. And but I became, but I was still Catholic, and I became what is called, they say, is a cafeteria Catholic. I did this, and I chose that, and I stood up. I thought I was a good person. I thought I'm a good guy, but I wasn't a good guy. That's just it. I told myself I was a good guy. I meant well, but I didn't do well.
Okay, what do you mean
As
by
I
that? Wait, can you go a
well,
little bit?
I don't want to get too much into that, but let's just say my relationships with women. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
When you're young, so, maybe a few other things, but, um, so I started to become more of a Catholic. And when I met my wife, yeah, we started going to church together, but still, we were just going through routines,
Yeah.
and that's my criticism of, well, I know the Catholic Church better than others, so that's my criticism of a lot of Catholics. They're just going through routines. They're just showing up to Mass and go doing the rituals. All of that, the purpose of all of that is to help you focus on Jesus, Him and Him crucified. That's the purpose of all of those rituals in Catholicism, to help people.
Right, like you see, like a lot of people just go through the motions,
Yeah,
but they're not developing that relationship with Jesus.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that, to me, I don't think that's necessarily a fault of the Catholic Church. They're trying.
Hmm.
But I feel that a lot of people fall into that, and they don't realize really what they're there for.
So that was you at one point where you were going through the motions. Like at first you were Catholic by name, you didn't really go into the church, but then you started going to the church, but it was more going through the motions, doing the rituals and whatnot. But
Right.
you weren't at that level where you had that deep sense of relationship with Jesus. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
exactly correct. And then I'm into my careers, trying to do as good a job as I can, and everything. But uh, yeah, spiritual lightning hit me.
All right. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Okay.
Spiritual lightning.
And now, spiritual lightning, essentially, the way I see it, is a call from God. It's a call from God, and
Mhm.
God lets you become aware of things. Now, we hear that God speaks softly. You need to pray. You hear from God. Um, you you converse with God, and so on. And He wants to speak softly to you. You get the message. He's a peaceful. Jesus is a peaceful man. And you
That's
didn't
right.
need to have peace in your life. And that's how He speaks to you. However, every once in a while, and I don't think people should let it get to that point, God has to shout at you. When Jesus was in the temple and He got all angry and everything, He says, hey, wait a minute. My temple's not to be a den of thieves. This is a place of worship. And he got angry, right?
Yeah.
And
And overturn the tables and whatnot,
he
right?
shouted and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Well,
Yeah.
God shouted at me. And I've had God shout at me a few times in my life, but not as much as these 3 times that I'm going to talk about. All right, that I'm going to mention to you. So,
Okay.
uh,
So,
so
um,
he did shout at me, but this time was pretty loud, and it's sort of like, you better pay attention. I'm talking to you now.
yeah.
Straighten up.
Yeah, just to back up just a little bit before we jump
All
into the
right.
spiritual lightning deeper. Tell me about more of like how you were going, like you were achieving things, but how were you like mentally and how were you like emotionally feeling? Cause you say feeling a little neurotic, things like that. So just tell me a little bit about that if you can.
Well, America is a very competitive country, and I excessive competition. Uh, I think it's okay to compete. I love to compete. I was an
Yeah.
athlete. You want to win and so on. However, it can bring out some negative things, and I don't think the competition brought that many negative things from me, but it brought it from other people towards me, the way I see it.
Okay.
And so I think America tends, and the Western world in general, because of the culture of competition, tends to be rather a neurotic culture.
Okay.
And, not that there's anything wrong with competition, just like anything else, it needs to be, I think people need to be aware of still proper behavior and proper situations and how to treat people right and
Mhm.
respect and dignity and so on. But somehow that goes by the wayside with a lot of people, and they think
Yeah.
they can get away with it.
So with this competition, you mean like competition like in the workplace and any other
Well, in the workplace and in the social realm,
social realm
the
too?
way
Yeah,
you
yeah,
look, the way you dress, how you look, or how you carry yourself. Some people become resentful if you have money, if it look like you have money. I don't have money. I look like I have money, so people resent you for that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So you start making enemies in a way.
Yeah, and then they become envious. People become
Envious, yeah.
envious and jealous. We have today what I call is a cult, a politics of envy, and
Yeah.
the culture of envy. Uh, so
So how did those things affect you?
well, I just felt put upon by a lot of people, and I didn't know how to fight back.
Hmm.
You're supposed to fight back, but then I realized sometimes. Maybe it's good to be passive. God says you turn the cheek here and there. You're supposed to turn the cheek 77 times, right? 777 times. But this is what I would do. I said, why are they acting like that towards me? I have nothing against them. I don't know what to say to them. I had nothing against them, so I couldn't pick on things to fight them. So I would just stand there and just go about my business. But it does have an effect on you.
Yeah, I feel like it would have taken a toll on you. Feel
You
like
know,
you're getting battered, and I don't
yeah.
know. I know. I feel um like if that happened to me, I would be like irritated or maybe depressed or sad.
Yes,
Or
right,
was
exactly.
anything
You
like
get
that
depressed.
happen?
You get depressed and yeah, irritated and depressed. I would say depressed. I don't think
Yeah,
I've ever had serious cases of depression, but you do, have a melancholy about you sometimes, and you don't know how to succeed. But I mean, that's all part of the. Uh, we have a rash of bipolar people, or so, like let's say some of it is biologically determined, okay, but some of it I believe is culturally determined. I think people are confused.
yeah,
People
yeah.
get confused. They don't know how to act. I don't think it ever happened to me in a real serious, too serious a way. I never needed counsel. I have a great wife, by the way, who, uh, well, she's very supportive. So
Great.
you'd see her picture if I had my other photo,
Okay.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. You need the support of friends and family.
Right.
Friends
Right.
and family. And that's another thing. Family sometimes are your worst enemy. They get resentful and jealous and they don't want you to succeed. And
Yeah, that happens too.
did I
Yeah.
get one congratulations from anybody in my family when I got my doctorate?
Mm.
I mean, I was on my way to something and plus other things.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
Well,
good when people don't recognize, your accomplishments like
and you're
that.
trying, it's like, my father told me I was stupid all my
Oh
life.
man.
This is what
Yeah.
happens when you're young. You Shumanit, that's an Italian when you shumanit, that means you're a stupid person. For
Mm.
kids, they always treat kids like that. And I went away to college, and this is a very nice Christian community, a very good Christian community in Minnesota. And they treated me so well. I responded to them in a positive way. I said, "Wow, I'm smart. I'm
Yeah.
talented." I started to realize. So when I went home, my first Christmas, away from college, I go home. I started to act more mature.
Mm.
And my father said to me, "What's the matter with you?"
Yeah.
I said, "Uh-oh." I said, "Here I am. I'm finally arriving here. And this is the response I get. That's just an
Yeah,
example.
that's when people
Uh,
get so accustomed to the old version. They don't know when you've matured and grown. They
yeah,
don't they can't handle it in sometimes.
right. And these good Christian people were leading me to be a better self.
Yeah.
And that's why I stuck around Minnesota in this college town.
Oh, Minnesota.
It was Minnesota, yeah. Right on the Mississippi River, lovely place. Right
Yeah.
on south of Minneapolis. It wasn't in the big city. It was a small rural town, lovely place.
Yeah.
So that things started to happen from there.
Okay.
But
Okay.
like I
Yeah.
just wanted to talk about, like you brought up what is spiritual lighting. It would hit me three times, but I came across a book by Deacon. His name is Richard Eason. And he said, and the name of the book was Spiritual Lightning, Your Call from God and How to Respond to His Values, something like that. How to conform to His values or something. You're supposed to respond to God. So
Okay.
God is calling. But there are many kinds of spiritual lightning.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, there's many kinds. I mean, like you can be a victim of a crime. It's going to do something. You're gonna say, "Oh, how did that happen to me?" And you kind of learn from it. You could commit a crime, and all of a sudden find yourself locked up. Let me tell you about my brother-in-law. Yesterday, my brother-in-law was hit by his kind of spiritual lightning. Yesterday, we went to Miami. I live in Palm Beach County, Florida. So we
Okay.
went to Miami, where my wife and I met and lived for 25 years and so on. A number of years ago, my brother-in-law was hit by spiritual lightning. He was a good fella, and so on, but he found himself incarcerated for a little while, right? Well, that just scared the hell out of him, all right? Since then, he found God. He's been a member of this church all these years, and he's so much looking out for the other guy in his life. Yesterday we were in Liberty City. Liberty City is Miami's ghetto. Okay. And my wife is from there. And her family still lives there. All right. And what he does is he meets with community groups around the city of Miami who donate food, toys, clothing, and he distributes to them at his church. And people come to his church every Christmas and Thanksgiving. And he distributes. So we helped him out distributing. And this is what he does in his community. He's not leaving his community. He's not moving up the ladder of success. He's making his community better. This is the way, this is his response to God. And I really admire
Yeah.
him for it,
Yeah. He has the calling on his
He
life.
had the
Yeah.
calling, and I really admire him for it. And so this is what he does every year for I don't know how many years. And everybody
Yeah.
knows him, handing out food and toys Christmas time to the kids and so
Yeah.
on. So
That's beautiful.
that's his response to spiritual lightning.
Yeah.
And
All
so
right. So I just wanna jump back to your story and just get the audience back into where we were with you said you were achieving a lot of things
yeah.
but you still felt this void, you felt this competition, and it was having an impact on you. And then you were hit by spiritual lightning.
Well, yeah.
What was the spiritual lightning? If you could explain a little bit that experience that you've had and how it made you pivot.
Yeah. I had three of them. So at the time I'm what you call a cafeteria Catholic. All right. I'm going to church and doing these things. All right, fine. Thought I was a good person. But then I wake up one morning and I collapse, pass out. In the process, I broke my leg.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "Oh, I'm passed out." I said, "Let's go to the urgent care." I live in a condo now. I go down the steps because, of course, the elevator is out when I collapse.
What
so,
happens that way?
so I go down.
Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will.
Yeah. And that's it. So I go to the urgent care. She says, "Oh, yeah, you did break your leg. Plus, you had a stroke."
Oh my goodness.
I said, "Oh, me? I had a stroke." "Yeah, you got to go to urgent. You have to go to the emergency room." So, well, I don't want to go to the emergency room. I had to go back to my apartment and get some things to bring to the hospital. I'm not just going to go by myself. So I go back to my condo, and of course I have to walk up the steps. I just had a stroke. I have to walk up the steps, get my stuff, walk down the steps, and we finally go to the hospital. So, I mean, this was my stroke, right? This is my spiritual lightning. So then finally the um, vascular surgeon comes in. He says, all right, Michael, he says, you had a stroke, and here's what we got to do. We can't fix your leg because you had a stroke. But you have to have surgery. You have to have surgery because your carotid artery is 97% blocked. And if we don't have a surgery within a day or two, you're going to die. He was very blunt about it. Or, he said, if you don't die, you're going to have such a stroke that you'll be so incapacitated. So we've got to do it right.
Rock in a hard place.
So we got to do it right away. Well, I was into Jesus, and I said, I was praying, and we pray, my wife and I, we're becoming better and better at what we're doing, our formation is growing and so on. And I said, well, fine, let's do it, I said, what am I going to say? He says, there's only one condition. Oh, I said, what's that? He says, I have to get in there. It's right over here. You don't see the scar, but that's all right. I have to get in there, and we've got to clean out your artery and get rid of all that blockage. But it's got to be, you have to be awake.
What? You have to be awake.
You have to be awake. I said, well, how's that? He says, well, if you're not awake, you can have a stroke, and I won't know it. I need you awake to know what's happening. So, I have to tell you about this. I'm not going to tell you too much about the other two lightning strikes, but I got to tell you this one because, I'm a guy, I like adventure. I like experience. This was an adventure. Okay? Finally, the day comes, a couple of days later. I walk into the room to be operated on, and I'm like this. You see my hands stretched out there like that? I don't know if you can see it.
I can't see your hands, but I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, they're stretched. And he clamps down my hands. They're clamped. I'm stretched out. My feet are clamped. What does that image look like to you?
Yeah, like you're on a cross.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And he also clamped my neck, so I couldn't move. I couldn't budge. I couldn't move my neck.
Yeah.
My legs and my feet are clamped. He says, okay. Then he shoots me up so that I wouldn't have any pain, of course, right? But it did hurt, by the way. It really hurt.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Oh, man.
Even though he shot me up. And he says, okay. And I had a blue covering, and they just had an opening so he could look in there and see what he could do. And for 2.5 hours, I'm like this. I couldn't budge. And he's cleaning out my artery. And every 15 minutes, he would say, count from 1 to 5. So, because he wants to know that I'm alert, because I'm not having a stroke. And I would do that, and I'd choose all the languages I knew. So he liked that. He liked that I did that. And so that was an adventure. So 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I said, and the first thing I saw when I got out of the operating room was my wife, of course. She's there. And we go home. And I said, well, Doc, I said, how long can I go back to work? I was teaching at Palm Beach State College, teaching psychology classes, by the way. And he says, 3 weeks you'll be back to work. Well, it took me 8 months, Omar. I was out of it for 8 months.
Yeah, that takes a toll on you.
It took a toll on me. Because it takes a toll on you when you're violated, when you have the surgeries.
Yeah, how old were you at the time when this happened?
75.
I'm 70.
I'm 81 now.
What?
Yeah. Well,
wow. That even adds more into how. Wow, this is just blew my mind, man. You were 75 going through that.
Yeah, I was going through it. I had a career singing. I had a singing career. I was singing all over the place, all over the country, in the finest of venues. It was really all of a sudden, boom, it's over with. My entertainment career was over with That was the end of it. So, okay, so that's my first spiritual lightning. So what's happening? I'm realizing things. I'm aware, praying every day for
Yeah.
recovery more than I ever did. Okay. And as a Catholic, I'm going to, I could leave the house, but not for long. I go to church, I come back, and that's pretty much it. I couldn't go anywhere. Praying my rosary and reading spiritual books and so on. Then I started to realize things. I'm starting to realize about my life. I'm starting to realize that I was not such a terrific person.
Yeah, that's
That
kind of
I
what
was,
yeah, what happens.
I was prideful. I was jealous. I was envious. I had hatred in me. I was into drugs. I didn't care about it when I was younger. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I didn't think anything of it at the time. I had impure thoughts. And I did things with people that like I'm saying, my relationships with women weren't the
Yeah, that you
best.
regret it. You
And
regretted
I
it.
regretted so much. There's so many
Yeah.
things I regretted the way I was
Yeah.
that
That's
I
not like the
realized.
Holy Spirit was convicting you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
had to practice God's virtues to become the kind of person God intended me to be. I realized that this is what I had to do. I had to ask God for his graces for faith and for hope, Jesus and him, faith in Jesus and his resurrection, faith in Jesus, his ascension, the love of God and the ascension of the Holy Spirit, justice, courage, everything in moderation. Those are
Yeah. The
those are
fruit of the
God's
Spirit
virtues.
too.
Those are God's virtues,
Yeah.
and I had to do that. So while I'm sitting in my apartment, spiritual lightning is. I'm becoming aware. It's taken becoming aware. I said to myself, or somebody said it to me. I said, I've been through all of this. I don't know. I didn't know how much time I had left.
Mm.
I was really not doing well. I said, why don't I write some books about some experiences in my life so that my wife and children can know a little bit more about their father and her husband?
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
started writing.
It
Now,
sounded like you were saying goodbye in a way.
in a way,
Yeah.
well, I felt confident that I was going to continue, but yet again,
There was some doubt there.
you know, so actually, I started writing for two Catholic magazines.
Okay.
They accepted me. I was very happy about that. And then I started writing books. And I wrote a couple of books, really books about culture, psychology, and religion.
Mm.
One is uh, You Only Live Thrice, was the name of my first book. It's a story about that
Yeah, I was
title.
looking at that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I heard. Yeah.
well, you know, when you're young, you have your dreams, and then when you're older, you contribute to society and you want to do things. And then a third life, most people don't get. I got my third life. I'm lucky. God is saving me. He wants me to do something beyond what most of my family members died before they were at 75. Here I was, 75.
Hmm.
Well, my
It's a
my father,
blessing.
my uncles, they were gone before then. Here I was getting a second lease on life, third lease, I say. All right. More from a Florida Catholic. From Europe to Florida, I used to go back and forth to Europe a lot. So I compared Europe and Florida and had some cultural and psychological stories and so on like that. All right. Anyway, I had to tell you that.
Yeah.
A year
Can I ask you
later,
a question?
yeah.
Um, Tell me more about that transformation that you're going through after you're hit with that spiritual lightning. What's the transformation that you went through after that?
Well, I realized that, with my prayer and so on, I had to listen to God more.
Okay.
I wanted to read, I wanted to. It was just something I had to do. I wanted to do this. I wanted to talk to God. I wanted to have a relationship.
You had
I
that
want, I
desire.
wanted to read God's words. I wanted to obey his commands and be more aware of what his commandments really meant. You know, I realized that my prayer was transforming me. Little by little, I was becoming a better person. And I was getting healthier, of course. I was
Hmm.
getting healthier. Little by little, it was transforming me. I was becoming a better person. I realized that by prayer, I was aligning myself with God and His will for me.
Yeah.
I was aligning myself, and I was open to His graces,
Hmm.
and good things were happening. And I just, and so that's what I was going through. That was the transition. I became a better Christian. I became a better Christian. But then what do you think happened about a year and a half after all of this?
Some more
Boom!
spiritual lightning
I
came.
had another spirit. I had another stroke.
Oh my goodness, man.
I had another stroke, and I had to go to the hospital, and they said, you need a heart valve. I said, oh, okay. You're, uh, I had a heart condition since I was a good little kid. Wasn't much, but it caught up to me. So I needed a heart valve. So, okay. Um, I, uh, I went, same thing. I went, this time it wasn't so much an adventure, because you go to, they put you under and then they replace your heart valve and you wake up and they say, okay, Michael, you're fine. You can go home now.
Okay. It
So
was a lot different from the first
it
time.
was a lot different from the first
Yeah.
one. And,
Yeah.
and the heart valve thing, I mean, you think it's complicated. It is a complicated. Of course, it's dangerous and so on. But 2 days later, after I got my heart valve, it's a cow's valve. And they put it on top of your original valve. Okay, if people don't know about it.
Hmm.
And 2 days later, we had a Christmas party at our condo. I said, all right, I'll go to the Christmas party. I just got out of the hospital. I'll go to the Christmas. I'll sit at the table, I'll watch everybody. And all of a sudden, I said to my wife, let's get up and dance a little bit, I feel kind of good with it. I danced all night long, Omar.
Mm.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I said, my God, I feel terrific. I just could not believe it. What had happened? That heart valve did this for me.
Hmm.
And I was just so thrilled about it. And only to find out afterwards, and so that was that night, I did have battles with blood pressure after that here and there, but I just felt terrific. Only to find out that Arnold Schwarzenegger had the same surgery. I
Okay.
said, well, I'm in good company.
Yeah.
He had it 3 times.
Wow.
He had it once when they didn't have it down, so he had trouble with it, didn't work. I didn't even know this. He had
Yeah, I
it
didn't know either.
he had it a second time, and it worked just for a few years. And now just last year, I think it was just last year. Actually, it was a little before mine, 2 years ago at least, 2 or 3 years ago. He had it a third time, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This time it worked because they have it down now. They just got this surgery down. All
Hmm.
right. So I found out he had it. I said, good, I'm in good company. Mick Jagger had the same thing when he was 75 years old. I said, oh, and Mick Jagger's dancing around all over the stage. He's 80 years old, dancing all over the place on stage. If you ever seen any of his shows, And so those are some celebrities that also had it, So I found that out, you know. And then anyway, for about a year, I was feeling pretty good, fairly good, let's say, relatively. Lo and behold, a year later, what do you think? I had a third stroke.
A third one. Oh,
A
man.
third stroke. These are TIAs. These are mini strokes.
Okay. Okay.
It's not like they incapacitate you so much, but they do have its toll on you. They do have its take a toll on you. So I had to have a pacemaker.
Okay.
So that time, and it's the same thing. They put you on there. They put in a pacemaker. Michael, you're fine. You can go home. And then that's about a couple of years ago. So um, anyway, so those were my 3 strikes of lightning, and which made me, as I explained to you, it made me listen to God more, read the Word more. Uh, he was calling me to do these things, and I felt,
Yeah.
and I wanted to do this. It's like you have to do these. I wanted to do these things. I love doing these things. I love being a good practicing Christian,
They kind of
and
gave you a kick
I
in the
love the
butt.
lifestyle that I have. What is that?
Yeah. Kind of give you a kick in the butt to do it more.
Exactly. And I just felt, I just love this lifestyle. And
Yeah.
so as a Catholic, I go to church as often as I can, mornings. I went this morning, as a matter of fact. Um, and I take the Eucharist to a Catholic. When you take the Eucharist, it means the actual body and blood of Christ. It's not
Right.
symbolic. You actually receive the body and blood of Christ, and I
Right.
see it transforming me little by little. You go to confession more, and you recognize what your sins are. I pray the Rosary,
Hmm.
and the Rosary. People aren't Catholic. People have a misunderstanding about it, but it's essentially about the life of Christ. That's what the Rosary is. So you focus on the life of Christ, and I do pilgrimages. We helped with my brother-in-law yesterday. We go out to Lake Okeechobee, which is a very poor area of Florida. These are the poorest towns in America, full of the migrant farm workers and farm workers from Jamaica, from Haiti, from Central America, and we deliver food and clothing to the churches there.
That's beautiful.
And those are those are my pilgrimages.
Yeah.
Like call them pilgrimages, and all the churches around there. So we try to do that, and I enjoy that, and I bring people with me to do it, and we go. So anyway, that's what the Central
Yeah.
part of Florida around Lake Okeechobee is. It's very poor and depressing.
Yeah. So, what were some lessons learned from that spiritual lightning?
Well, yeah. First of all, my lifestyle changed. One, and I realized that if you're going to be a child of God, like you say, who am I? I am a child of God. I am. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. I say, and where I'm going. I'm going in the name of the Lord.
That's
So,
right. That's
uh,
right.
so, uh,
Amen.
so I realized that it's not just achieving things, but you have to have a personal mission. You have to have a personal mission. My mission, and I wrote my personal mission. Finally had it. I never had it. I was just jumping from here to there, accomplishing and achieving because I could do it. I imagine if I had a personal mission beforehand, I might be doing the same things, but I wouldn't have been so feeling fulfilled and joyous as
Yeah,
I am.
you just reminded me. Like I authored a book. It's not published yet, but I talk about this so much. Exactly what you're saying about. I call it the divine why. It's why your purpose. Why are you doing the things you do? And it
Yeah.
has to come from God if you want to be fulfilled. And you're talking about this like
But
right to the T. Yeah.
you know what it is, Omar? It's what my grade school priest told me that I forgot about.
Okay. Yeah.
What he told me when I was 6 years old. But did I pay attention? No, I went off and did what I wanted to do. Here's what
What
he
happens
told
to
me.
most of us. A
Yeah,
lot
here's
of
what
us.
he
Yeah.
told me. What's the purpose of life? To know, love, and serve the Lord.
Amen. Yes.
That's the purpose of life, and everything else is filled in for you. But in the process, you're knowing, loving, and serving the Lord. So I wrote my mission. I wrote out a mission, and I have it here. I have all of it exactly.
Mission statement, you mean?
My mission, yeah. Here's my
Yeah.
mission. Yeah.
Go for
Um,
it.
uh, I want to keep in physical, mental, and spiritual shape. I'm in good physical, mental, and spiritual. Like you, people don't know I'm 81 years old. I mean,
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought you were like 60, maybe.
you know, yeah, that's what people say. But
Yeah.
I keep in shape. I go to church. I pray. And as far as mental shape, I started to get concerned because I had those 3 strokes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's understandable.
and I think I had a fourth one. The doctor told me I didn't realize it. Another TIA. But so I went to my neurologist. I said, "Listen, I had these strokes." I said, you got to check me out here." So I had a brain scan, and she says, "You're fine," because I wasn't sure. When you get older, you
Better
forget
safe than
more.
sorry, right?
You forget words. You forget this. You forget your keys. You lose. You don't know. All these little things. That you
Yeah.
okay with before. She says, "Nah, you're fine. In fact, you're better than most people your age. Don't worry about it." So that's number one. I want to build upon my literary efforts. because I've been writing so much. I wrote 5 books. I edited 2 all this time while I was sick. All right. Um, I want to spread the word of God, especially via speaking engagements. If I can do it, I like this to be one of the speaking engagements about spiritual lightning.
Oh yeah.
I want to contribute to the body of Christ as opportunities arise. It's all part and parcel of it. All to know, love, and serve the Lord, and secure my wife and children in my later age. Who knows how long I'm going to live? She's a little younger than me. I think women last longer, so I want to
Yeah,
make
that's
sure
usually
I'm taken
happens.
care of. So all of that is my mission, and I
Yeah.
never had that before. I just did things.
Yeah. So you gave me your mission. Now I want to know, what is your message?
Well, I yeah. What is your message? My message is this: don't wait for God to shout at you. Do it now. I tell people, go to church. They don't want to go to church. You can't be a Christian unless you go to church. I don't care what church it is.
Yeah,
My
fellowship. You need the
my
fellowship.
brother, my brother-in-law, they became deacons. They're spiritual people. They're half their friends are in jail or dead from drugs. They live in a bad neighborhood, but they stay there and commit themselves to it. And they're good people. So the message is, start young. And I always tell people they're Baptists. They go to church and they lead a Christian life. And that's what I say to people: go to church. Because church is it's not just fellowship. Church is there to help you focus on Him and Him crucified. That's what church is for.
Yeah, need that
To help
spiritual
you
food.
focus. You can't do it
Yeah.
by yourself. You
Yeah.
can't do it by yourself. That we're human beings. We can't do it by ourselves. We need the support of other people. We need the support of the church, and we need Jesus Himself. So the message is, go to church. Don't wait for God to shout at you. Develop a lifestyle as soon as you can, and you'll be better for it. And you'll just be better for it.
Yeah.
And by that
Thank you for
lifestyle,
that.
I mean going to church and praying and concentrating on your better qualities of how you can improve yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm coming down to the last couple of questions.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, so these ones going to be deep.
Oh, I thought we got pretty deep.
Yeah, we already deep. Um, but what gives you hope?
um, I'll tell you what gives me hope. When I see God's graces work in my life, I know that I'm still on my way to something. I remember when I was younger, I used to want to achieve, I wanted to accomplish, and I saw people my age or older that resented me because I was still on my way to something, even though they didn't realize I was just trying to achieve and I had a lot of energy in me. But what gives me hope is that I still have things to do. I still can accomplish, but this time is with God's graces. And when I see God's graces working in my life, I have a lot of hope. I expect a lot of great things. And even if it doesn't happen, the great things, I'm going to heaven. That's great.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
if it's cut short today, I'm going to heaven. Can I just tell you a little quick story? A
Go
little
for
quick.
it. Yeah.
Before I moved here, we live in a condo here. We lived in a nice community in Boynton Beach, Florida. My next door neighbor was a pastor. He was retired. He was in his mid-80s. All right. I was into my lifestyle. I'm going to do this. I'm singing here and I'm doing this. I was singing and plus teaching and I'm accomplishing this and achieving, whatever. Going to church, but like I said before, just not like I am now, right? So Michael, he says, I want to talk to you about heaven. I said, Pastor George, I don't want to talk about heaven. What do I want to talk about heaven for? He wants to talk about heaven. He's in his mid-80s. He's a pastor. He wants to talk about heaven, what it's like up there. I said, well, I don't know. I said, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I got place to go, people to meet, things to do, little time to do it in. I can't be thinking about heaven. He wanted to talk about heaven. So I didn't talk to him about heaven. I didn't want to. When we came to this condo, one of the first things I realized, I said, Vaughn, my wife's name Vaughn, I said, Vaughn, I only want one thing in life. I want to go to heaven. And I'm going to do all I can to make sure I get there. I want to do this. And then boom, I had my stroke. So God said, and my carotid prune, God said, yeah, you're going to get to heaven. But you listen to me first. You ain't going to do it on your own. You can't do it on your own. You want to go to heaven? Listen to me. So even though I didn't listen to Pastor George, I moved in here. I started to focus on heaven. That's my goal. That's where I'm going. You don't have a mission, you will perish, as in Proverbs. I don't know the exact words there, but that's what keeps me moving, and that would give me hope. I just know good things are going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of hope. Hope in
Yeah.
the Lord,
Hope in the Lord.
Yeah.
And his graces, not me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like St. Ignatius. He says, pray as though everything depends on you, but pray as though everything depends on God. No, work like everything depends on you. Work like everything depends on you, but pray like everything depends on God. I'm going to work. I'm going to be productive, but it's all up to him. It's not me.
Yeah, that was deep. That was deep,
I'll
Michael.
I'll do my job. He'll do his too.
All right. So, we'll ask you one last question before we get into where we can find you and whatnot. So, what would you like to say to someone who's struggling? Maybe they're struggling spiritually. Maybe they were just hit with spiritual lightning and don't know what to do, and they're looking for hope. What would you say to them?
Well, a lot of what I just talked about. If you are if you're going through struggles, going through struggles means that you need to make a fresh start, and it's time to embrace your personal growth journey. You have to think about yourself, and you're not gonna and what you need to do for yourself, but you can't do it by yourself. It just doesn't work. So you have to do it with the help of God, and so you have to rely on him, and he will illuminate your path. You want direction in life. We always say, in the Catholic Church, you want direction in life. You need direction in your life, purpose and direction. You have the anchors of Catholicism. You go to communion, you go to mass, you go to confession, you pray the rosary. All those things will help you clarify and illuminate your direction. And then just hold fast to your mission. Just hold fast to your mission. This is what you're doing. And be disciplined about it. Don't do it whenever you feel like I'm going to do it here or there. No. Be disciplined about it. And that's what you have to be aware of when you're going through struggles. So many times in my life I struggled and I said, oh yeah, I go to Jesus, but then I forgot him again.
Happens like that a lot, yeah.
It happens like that a lot. Oh, things are going fine, you forgot him again. And what happens? And then you have trouble again. Come on.
And you're in a mess.
And you know what? I went through these 3 surgeries. I had no problem with it. I just knew God was going to work it out for me. And I just relied on Jesus every time.
Yeah.
And now he's leading me to something greater. So anyway, it's got to be. He gave me a life for something.
Right, right. Yeah. It's always a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, what am I alive for? Well, he's working it out. So,
Yeah, working out for your good.
right, and I want to, and for his good, I want to speak more on
Yeah.
his behalf. And I want to write more. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I have another book in me. I don't know about that, but at least speak more. I can't sing anymore. I can't teach anymore. Um, but I think I can speak about some of these things. I have a lot of topics I can speak about because I gave lectures of all kinds of topics in my career. And I met so many different people from all over the world. I work a lot with international peoples and stuff. I, so I have a lot of things to talk about. I have a whole
Yeah.
I have a whole list of topics I can talk about, but this is my favorite, of course, because this is, you know,
Yeah, I really enjoyed this topic,
yeah.
how you went so in depth with that. But before we go, I know you're an author, writer, former entertainer. Where can people find more of your stuff? How can we find you? What?
Well, yeah. Well, my books are on Amazon, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, and some on Barnes and Noble, not all of them. But
What are they? What are the titles?
the first one is "You Only Live Thrice." The second one is "More from a Florida Catholic." The third one is "Europe Meets Florida," and those are kind of semi-biographical and educational
Hmm.
vignettes and so on. But then I wrote two books that I thought were a little more worthy, really, to tell you the truth. One is called "The Dr. B. Reader on the Ologies," uh, and that means connecting Christianity with psychology, sociology, and anthropology. Because I teach at Palm Beach State College and Miami-Dade College. These are secular universities, secular college. You can't bring up Jesus in my psychology class. You don't bring that up. But my books talk about Jesus in psychology, sociology, and anthropology. Dr. B. Reader on the ologies. And there is such a
Wow.
thing as Christian psychology and Christian behavioral science. There is, and
Yeah.
Catholic behavioral science. I have a priest friend of mine. He's great. He's great. What does he do? He's a psychologist. What does he do? He's on the pulpit, and he gives his homilies on Jesus and cognitive behavioral therapy. Every homily has something to do with that. So that's my fourth book. The fifth book is From Gramsci to Freud, if you're into politics and philosophy, 7 anti-Christian philosophers who ruined America.
Mm,
And philosophy is powerful. And
yeah.
these are all European philosophers. And our students in our universities today learn these guys. And look what's happening to America.
Yeah.
Look what's happening to America. And I have, again, when I was working on my doctorate, one of my colleagues there, he was my one of my mentors, a Marxist. He's a Marxist. He was the Minister of Education of Venezuela. All right. In 1976, he himself changed the entire curriculum of the schools of Venezuela to be a Marxist curriculum. That was
Wow.
1976. Look what has happened to Venezuela. He did this.
Yeah.
I worked with him and I had to do research for him. Okay. Now look
Mm.
what's happening to America. Look what's happening to America. Because that's exactly what's happening to America. They've changed the curriculum. And I tell everybody, I know it costs money. I say, get your kids out of the public schools and into Christian schools. It's the only thing that's going to save us if they're changing the curriculum of our schools along Marxist lines. So anyway, my
Yeah.
fifth book is 7 anti-Christian philosophers who ruined America, and I include that one story I just told you about
Okay.
the guy I'm with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then
So,
I edited two books. I will say this: I edited two books, daily scriptural reading. So it's not that I wrote it; I took it from the Bible. I have a
okay.
scriptural reading for each day. So there's two books on
Cool.
that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. So that is all great. So you can find that all on Amazon, correct?
All on Amazon
All
and
on
and
Amazon.
and on michaeljbaglino.com.
Great. So you know where to find it.
Yeah.
So Michael, thank you so much for coming on this show. Thank you for opening up, being vulnerable, and sharing that story. I know the story that is maybe hard to tell, especially a life-threatening situation. So being able to open up and share that story to inspire others, that's very admirable, and I really do appreciate you
Well, thank you.
doing that.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I
So
enjoyed it today.
Michael, yeah, Michael,
Thank you.
you are a voice of hope.
Good deal. Good deal. That's what we want. All right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Until
Omar.
next time,
Yeah.
let's rise. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Voices of Hope. Your time and attention mean the world, and we hope today's conversation has inspired and encouraged you. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss a moment of hope. We're all part of this community, and your voice matters. If you're ready to share your own story of resilience and become a voice of hope, reach out to me directly at Omar Kenyatta Clark at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, stay tuned for our next episode. We've got more powerful stories and inspiring voices coming your way, and I can't wait for you to be a part of it.